Hello and welcome to this presentation of the Doctoral Research Course Series here at City University of Seattle. My name is Aaron Groh, and I am responsible for many of the courses in this series, which is why I'm giving this presentation today. Now, as you can see on this first slide, the research series involves 5 courses. And what I'm going to do now is just review each of these courses in general terms and provide some additional information as we go. The first course in the series is RESR 617, and as the slide says, it provides a general overview of all of the courses in the series. You'll have a section about quantitative methods, also qualitative methods, and mixed methods research, as well as a bit of information about literature review basics. Now, because all of these topics are going to be discussed in depth in other classes, here it's mostly just a survey course to let people know, to let you know what you can look forward to as you move through each of these courses in the series. Of course, the idea of all of these courses is to help set you up most appropriately for the dissertation, which is what would happen after your courses are complete and the research courses are complete, and you've done comprehensive exams if your particular doctoral program has those, and then you'll be ready for the dissertation. The idea through all these courses is to set you up with the information you need to get a successful start on the dissertation. Now, as the title says, the next course in the research series is Quantitative Methods. Now, I want to just say, don't panic when you get to this course, or when this course is the next one on your list. You'll be fine. We use excellent instructors, and we take these quantitative terms and concepts slowly. We go through them many times in many different ways. The book we use is a top-notch book. It clearly explains the concepts that will be learned. You'll be fine. And again, of course, whenever there are questions, the teacher will be there to help you through. So we start this course with basic terminology. And I've heard it said that to know any subject is simply to know the terminology of that subject. And that's certainly true with respect to the dissertation, this quantitative methods course. And so we start with that, the terminology, and then we get into some of the statistical assessments that are available in quantitative research. And we'll start with t-tests and ANOVAs. They are related, and so they're in the same modules. We speak of them in the same sections or within the same area of the course, and then we get into chi-square and regression analysis. So there's these plus the standard mean, median, and mode terms you've heard long before your doctoral studies, I'm sure. And we put these all together, and then you consider what you want to do in terms of what could be researched through a quantitative method. And the course ends with an assignment that is put together a research design that uses a quantitative method to study what it is you might want to study down the road in your dissertation. The course after that is Qualitative Methods, and similar to the previous course, we're going to give you the terminology first. And after you have that terminology, we're then going to get into some of the procedures. This is a more in-depth course. Of course, 617 was a survey course that gave you a little bit of information about all the possibilities or all the things you will encounter. This course takes a deeper dive into the qualitative methods. So as the slide says, we're going to talk about the collection of data through qualitative means and how that data is recorded to be looked at beyond that first instance. We're then going to look at how it's analyzed. And with that information, you will then have a foundation for providing a possible research design using qualitative methods. Again, like the previous course where you had a lot of quantitative methods at your disposal to look at what you might want to study in your dissertation. In this course, we ask you to look at a qualitative method that might be most appropriate for the area of research you want to conduct. The next course in the series is research design. And again, you'll see the same topics listed, but the focus here isn't so much on those methods themselves, but how those methods are utilized by researchers. We'll discuss why the particular methods were used. Is it really the most appropriate method for what it is they want to do? Maybe how could it be done differently? We're going to basically give you research articles to look at, or I think in this case, actually, you're going to be assigned to find research articles that use the different research methods, and then do a very detailed review of that type of research in the article that you review. And we'll give you several different categories of items to look for, and then you describe how those items are displayed in the articles that you review. What this does is help you understand, like, as I said earlier, how the research is used in, how the methods are used in the research, and how they're written up in the research. And the reason we do this, as you'll see in the next, as we discuss the next course, is because the understanding how understanding how the research is conducted and how the articles are written gives you a great foundation for understanding how articles might come together, or understanding how they don't come together, or if the method used was really the best method for what they want to find. So you need this critical understanding in order to have the best insight as to what you will propose when you get to your dissertation. Now, something many people miss is really included in the next step. Oh, by the way, I should mention mixed methods. I need you to understand that mixed methods is not, it is a combining of the other two, but it's also an independent use of the other two. So let me explain. If somebody were to choose to use a mixed method design for their dissertation study, and let me say right now, that's not something I recommend, but I'll explain what the method is. The person who would go this route chooses a quantitative research design. So they're going to use some statistical measures, some objective data, and look at it through a statistical test, whether it's a t-test, a ANOVA, a chi-square, something like that. Then an independent study, a second study, would be the qualitative research, maybe a survey or personal interviews, study of phenomenology, something that would fit in the qualitative area. That would be the second look given to this area that was selected. Mixed methods comes in as taking this same data from the two tests that were done before, from the qualitative and then from the quantitative, and putting them together to create essentially a third set of data to look at. This is not easy research design. It's often done wrong, and it's often done not well, even if the method is done correctly. It's messy. It can be messy, okay? So it's certainly legitimate, and it is done, but I'm thinking for dissertation studies, you might want to stick with one of the other two, because there's no reason to complicate things. Our goal for you is to run through this first experience of conducting your own research to have that experience so you can then conduct your own research or teach others how to do it, or some of both. Our goal is not to create the most complicated experience you could possibly get. And so I would, again, I would suggest maybe avoiding the mixed methods design. You will note that we do not have a course specifically for that design. And that's intentional. There's a lot of places where somebody could go wrong with it. And so as a first experience in this level of research, we don't typically use it. It's there, it's possible, but it's complicated. And as a chair of dissertations myself, I would tend to recommend avoiding it, because I'm quite certain whatever it is that you want to look at in the area of leadership and solving problems in leadership, you can get answers towards the application of a resolution to that problem with one of these other two methods. All right, now let's go on. The fifth course in the series is the RESR 625 Advanced Research Design. I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite courses to teach in this series, and the reason I like it so much is because it's a culmination of the previous four courses, but also it's where you finally get to really dig deep into the area you have the most interest in to find what's most important in that topic for this time. Let me quickly hit the bullets here for this slide. The idea of the course is, of course, to first learn how to create a plan for doing the review itself. There's actually a way that you can be more organized, and it is certainly not just picking up one article, putting it down, picking up the next article, putting it down, and moving through 20 to 50 articles that way. For starters, that's not the right way to look at research, but also, quite importantly, it would be very difficult to remember one from the next. So we give you a plan for how to review salient research in the area you are interested in. And then you get started on looking at the research. A literature review is your opportunity to take a deep dive into the literature, the published articles that have been done in the areas that address the areas that you are interested in for your own studies. Now, and I should say just quickly that there's actually a couple reasons people do literature reviews. One is actually for the general public's use. To do a literature review and to have that published can help other people understand what is the state of the knowledge in a given area. But anyone who does that type of an exercise and gets that published is typically ready to do their own research in that same area. And having just gone through an exhaustive review of the current literature in that area, certainly they're going to know what the next research study should be and how best to go about it. And of course, that's what we talk about towards the end of the course. But first, we identify the research threads, the themes, and then we synthesize this. A literature review is not just a listing of the articles that appear in the literature and a telling of how they were done and what was found. That's what we call an annotated bibliography. And there's a place for that, but it's not in the dissertation. It's not in our research series. What we're looking for is, as the bullet here says, a synthesis of the research that has been done, a synthesis of the articles. So what happens here in a lit review is you take a good long look at the articles that have been published based on research that has been done. And let me stress that the majority of the material you will review is research-based. The foundation for your dissertation is looking at the work that has been done before by others, the research that has been done, not the thinking about, not the postulating of, not hypothesis creating, but the research that has been done, so that you know what research should be done next. So you put this together, you compare how somebody's findings here compares to somebody else's findings there. You consider how the methods were done differently. Maybe that impacts what was found, maybe it doesn't. But you discuss these things in a concise, uniform, logical manner. Perhaps you'll give a historical view, perhaps you'll give the current situation, and then of course you'll bring in what are the leadership implications. And that really is the most important thing in our area. It's leadership, or whether you're doing the doctoral in business. What are the implications towards resolving a problem, or what is the problem highlighted in the research you do? Again, whether it's business or leadership related or business leadership. These are the doctoral programs we have right now. And so your dissertation will necessarily touch on one of these topics. But as I said already, one of the most important things that comes out of the lit review is the identification of what should be done next and how. And with these things in mind, you'll know what needs to be suggested as you conclude your literature review. In fact, that's really how any literature review should end, is the recommendation of, based on what's been done, based on what's been found, based on what people are currently saying, what should be researched next and how. This is the research series. And after this is done in the course, if your doctoral program has a comprehensive exam, you would then take that comprehensive exam. If your doctoral program doesn't, then of course your next step would be moving on directly to the dissertation studies. And that's a different presentation, getting set up for the dissertation. I do want to highlight a few things. I could read the slide for you if you'd like. It covers the basics, all right? I need everybody who takes this series to understand that the work done in these classes can help with the dissertation, but it is not the dissertation. Do not think, for example, that you're going to, if you have a research design that you've created in 625, excuse me, let's go back, let's 623, for example, and it's a great research design and your instructor thought it was awesome. That's nice. You got through the course and you clearly understand the material of the course. But that doesn't mean that it will automatically fit directly into the dissertation research that you will later propose and later do. These are courses. They're courses designed to help you prepare to start your dissertation, but they are not your dissertation courses. And so again, just remember that whatever your instructor might say is good and it works for the class, but it is not meant for you to then take at a later point and tell your dissertation chair, well, my instructor said it was fine, so it should be fine. Same is true of the lit review. Your literature review will help you in many ways to get a great understanding of what's out there currently with the area you may be interested in. But the thing is, as I have already said, literature reviews can be done to help other people understand the state of the field, the state of the knowledge. It can also be done to help the reviewer themselves understand. Whichever the case is, you've got to take this information and you've got to combine it with a few other elements for the dissertation itself. And so again, the literature review that was done for this class will not be something you can take intact and slap into chapter 2 of a dissertation and say, there, I'm done, I'm ready to go. And any teacher who leads you to believe that, please point them to me, okay? Because this is not something that can go directly from the class into your dissertation writing. Certainly much of it can apply. Obviously, you'll be looking at the same studies, but you'll be looking at these studies with added elements that need to get combined into the document. Literature reviews can stand alone, but when they're brought into another document that has a different purpose, in this case, dissertation, which is being done to set up a specific study, then necessarily the material will change. So I think I've said enough on this topic. Just realize that the work you do is great for the courses and it can be helpful for your dissertation, but it is not your dissertation writing. That comes later. And I've kind of touched on this already. I'll make it a more formal mention now. The teachers who work in these classes, one of these might be your dissertation chair, but more likely they will not be. So again, they may think it's fine, and it may be in fact fine for the course, but that doesn't mean it's great for the dissertation. So again, just please keep that in mind as you move forward. The work you do in these courses will help, but they are not the dissertation courses. And unless the person you're working with is somebody you know and they know they're going to be your chair on the dissertation, take what they say for what it's worth for that time. But when you get with your chair, then what your chair says matters most. It's really all that matters. Keep that in mind. That'll help you move through the process a lot faster. And that's something I'm sure that will be brought up in another presentation here. Is the dissertation is a combined effort between you, your dissertation chair, committee members, and other members of the faculty. They've been through this process several times, and they know what needs done. And the fighting you might do is only going to slow you down. I'm getting a little off topic, but I think it's really important to understand that early on so that when that time comes, there won't be a whole lot of angst. You'll understand that this is a learning process, that the teachers are there to help you through this learning process. And it's important when that time comes that you don't get married to a particular topic. You'll need to go where the literature directs you, the literature that you read through this entire research series. Most importantly, the 623 and 625, where you read the most current stuff in the field that you're interested in. It's a lot easier to look at the research and let the research guide you to the problem in the field and what should be studied next to help address that problem, rather than identify for yourself what you feel is a problem and then try and dig for other people that may or may not have said that. The research you do has to be based on work that other people have done. Now, after you're done with your doctorate, after you're done with the dissertation, you can launch any project you want, wherever you get the funding, or even if you don't have funding. It's cool. You can do whatever you want. But in this, as well as every other doctoral program you would ever encounter, the research that is done has to be based on research that has been done. It can't come from out of nowhere or just based on somebody's desires. It has to start with a foundation of other research, which is why we stress the knowledge of the research so much in this program. Again, as any other doctoral program would. Now, being that this is a presentation for you, if you have questions, certainly you're free to ask them now. And the one that's facilitating this session will do their best to answer your questions. It's been a pleasure going through this information with you. I wish you the best of luck as you work through this series and learn everything there is to learn through the experience.